So Sam, there's a lot of debate amongst Christians, especially in the counseling world, as to what's appropriate and what's right. Mm-hmm. And so, for example, there's a lot of Christians that think when it comes to counseling, we should use absolutely nothing but the Bible when we counsel people. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. But I'm coming to you as a psychologist. What about psychology? Mm-hmm. Does it offer anything to us of value, or is everything in that whole discipline just wrong and misguided? How exactly should we think through that as Christians?
Sure. I mean, this is obviously a question that we face constantly in life, not just with psychologists, but can we learn from anybody that isn't a Christian? And of course we can. You might learn something from your grandfather, who may not be a believer. He may be a wise man that will help you with some of your marital struggles. You might be able to read a secular book or go to a secular therapist on marriage. They may offer you some helpful techniques for communication, for resolving conflict, something like that. I think where the rub lies here is when we seek help, is God left out of the equation? And it doesn't mean that help that is godless might not be helpful.
Right.
But we believe as Christians that all of our life is vertical. Everything we do is lived coram Deo, before the face of God. All of life is a spiritual, moral drama. Whatever we do, Paul says, whether it's our eating or drinking even, all of that is to be done to the glory of God. So the secular book or therapist is unaware of that. He may be able to help me horizontally, but he's going to miss the vertical component of life that as believers we believe is ultimate and most important.
Right. So then for somebody who's gone to a counselor before and they did not use the Bible,
right.
What you're saying is it might not necessarily be unhelpful. It could still have something to it that's valuable.
Surely.
But there's still more that they might need in addition to that.
Exactly. So I think we can read Freud, we can read Ellis, we can read Skinner, we can read Rogers, all the great meta-psychologists. And in some ways these guys were brilliant. And at the same time, they committed a fatal error. They left God out of the human equation. And is there any more serious mistake than that? And the answer is no. So, but once again, I think we want to be cognizant of God's grace that rains down on everybody, a creation grace, common grace, natural grace, I think you call it. That means that we can learn from one another, regardless of what culture and what our religious persuasion, we can all learn from one another. In fact, we constantly do. We live in a world like that. That also is because of God's goodness. So we don't want to deny that creation grace, that common grace that comes from God. Anything that secular book or therapist tells me that's true and helpful, ultimately that came down from God. All good things come down from the Father of lights, the Bible says. On the other hand, the person that doesn't understand and love the biblical God is leaving the good news, the best news, the most important news out of the formula. And so that's the problem. Once again, not to say that there can't be some benefit there.